So today I want to talk about something that I don't think I talk enough about. I'm Leslie Liondas, and I want to talk about scope creep and boundaries. I have felt this pain so deeply in my career as an accountant, as a bookkeeper, as a tax professional. The scope creep is real. And one of the things that I have found since I have been doing so much market research around pricing, and I've already done two pricing workshops, fixing to do a third, and each time I have changed it a little bit. But what is one of the things that a lot of people don't look at is actually what is scope creep? What is scope of the actual engagement? So when you look at a role, employee versus contractor, so an employee pretty much does pretty much whatever their job is in the job description. Plus, there's always that caveat of others' duties as assigned. But what happens on a contractor role, so if you have your own accounting, bookkeeping, or tax professional business, most of the time you are a contractor for the client. You're working in a professional services capacity. But what happens is a lot of times we don't look at what is the true scope of the engagement, what is actually being covered. So lately, I've been talking to a lot of my clients, a lot of just people in the industry around these two things of boundaries and scope creep. And what I have found is a lot of people don't even know what scope creep is. So, first, let's define it. Scope creep is you have a set of services that you're expected to do for a price. But a lot of times we don't actually identify exactly what that scope is. So, therefore, how do we keep control of the boundary around it? So, I'm going to use an example that happened to me. Gosh, it's been a long time now and it still irks me a lot. But anyway, so I'll use this as an example. So I had a client that basically anything that the employees didn't want to do, it fell under the accounting role, which that wasn't true, but we had to have constant conversations about what it actually meant. So HR and accounting and payroll often mix like this. So the client thought HR was part of payroll, which it's not. So you have to specify that in your engagements because everything HR didn't want to do, and in most small businesses, they don't have HR in it. So therefore, they're hoping that the accountant will help the one that is doing payroll to help with HR, but that's not necessarily the way it should be. So you have to have these conversations with your clients. And the more I've talked about pricing, the more I've seen that this is a continuous problem. Because so for me, I got stuck into this hole between payroll, HR, invoicing, and all of the stuff got so muddled because we weren't clear on what the scope was. And then stopping what the boundary was and having the conversation with the client. Because what does running payroll truly mean? And for you that are in states that have complex HR rules, that means you need to have this in your engagement that we don't do this. Because what a lot of clients think is that payroll and HR are one when they are not. So those are the things that I really urge you to stop and think about. What is the scope of this engagement? And what is the boundary? And am I gonna force the boundary? Because sometimes clients just don't understand. And we need to make sure we have that conversation because this is where profit margins start doing this. And the same on the tax side, because I've been talking to a lot of tax professionals that think, or their clients think, that you filed a return for X amount of money. That doesn't include every notice that you ever get around that return. Yes, if it's the tax preparer's fault, yes, then they take care of it. But at the same time, the IRS is just, they're sending out notices left and right. We're being inundated with notices that we don't have anything to do with. But we're responding to those notices or calling the IRS and then being on hold with the IRS forever, and it's getting worse. But so the profit margins are doing this. And the one thing I urge you to do is that you have a business to run. So figure out what your boundaries are, what your scope is, and what are you doing it the price for. And so think about these areas in your practice that are actually getting muddled, because that's where we see so many accountants, bookkeepers, and tax professionals are completely burnt out because of this muddled stuff. So there's bookkeepers that have nothing to do with payroll, nothing, but they're getting pulled in to the payroll scenarios, and they have nothing to do with payroll. The client runs the payroll themselves. That means they should be contacting whatever their payroll servicing provider is and dealing with it themselves. But these are conversations that you need to have. All of this is part of pricing. And so last month I did two pricing workshops. I'm doing another one on June 24th this month at 12 Central. And I'm going to be including some of the stuff around scope creep and boundaries in this pricing workshop, because these are the two silent killers in pricing. And this what holds a lot of people back, because even if you're hourly pricing, but you don't have the clear scope identified, yes, you're covered hourly, but then it also leads from some really awkward conversations like, why is your bill so high? I got involved in payroll, I got involved in invoicing, I got involved in this and that. And they're like, why are you involved? Because the client's team members pull us in because they don't have any other resources. So you have to have this clear scope, you have to have the boundaries, and you have to be able to have the conversations about it. So if you want the link to the workshop, comment workshop below and we will get you the link to register. Because even though this is my third time to run this workshop, I have changed it each and every time. So even if you went to the last one, I would love to see you again. Because one thing I've noticed about studying pricing as long as I have, there's so much to learn. So I hope to see you soon and have a fantastic rest of your day.